Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I am your host, Andrew, and with me tonight, as always, we have Jason and Joe. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing tonight?
Yeah, doing good. Final week and a half sprint here.
It's crazy to think that the marathon is over and the final sprint has begun. It feels like just yesterday that we started this season off, probably because it started late because of the stupid lockout. Joe, how you doing tonight, bud?
Hey, I'm doing okay, man. The Cubs made the chase to 63, and brighter days are ahead. So
Yeah, you've got a lot of young talent ready to come up that looks really, really phenomenal. And even the guys they've brought up are already starting to produce. So, I said it last year during the trade deadline that I didn't think the Cubs would be down for an extended, long rebuild. And it looks like that prediction will hopefully, in your case, come to fruition.
yeah, the Cubs also said they'd be competitive this year. So
Yeah, but we know better than to listen to Cubs management. Come on, Joe. Haven't they cured you of that by now?
Oh, of course.
So, Joe, what are you drinking tonight, bud?
I am drinking American Lager from Big Truck Farms Brewery. Nice and tasty, something different. And I also have Miller Lite with me too as a backup because screw Milwaukee.
Love it.
Yeah.
Here, Joe.
I'm doing everything I can, Jason, to bring all the bad juju I can to the Brewers this week. So
You can help by letting the Phils win in their series this week.
hey, no problem by me, man. I mean,
just take the forfeits.
And we'll see, man.
That's so bad. Jason, what are you drinking tonight?
Just because I still have some of these left, I'm going with another Bud Light Seltzer soda. This time around, it is the Cherry Cola, which is basically an alcoholic cherry Coke. It is fantastic.
Yikes.
That sounds delicious.
Yikes.
It's delicious and dangerous.
I got nothing. All right, for me tonight, from New Trail Brewing, I've got two tonight. Number one, a pumpkin ale, because it's that time of year. Zombies are people, too. Awesome can design, too. And also, for later, I've got another Oktoberfest, because it's also, hey, October's almost here. We got to roll with this, guys. All right, so moving into events from last week. Finally, Friday night, the long wait was over. Albert Pujols, number 700. 22 years he played professional baseball. And not only did he get 700 that night, he hit 2 home runs. So he knocked off 699 and 700 all at once out in Los Angeles, which I thought was fitting since he spent time there last year as well. And his family still lives out there. So they were able to be in attendance to see number 700 live, which is just awesome. He is the 4th player in MLB history to hit the 700 club. Jim Edmonds said, quote, if Albert doesn't get hurt and plays 3 quarters in Anaheim of how he played here, meaning St. Louis, we're talking about 800 or 850 home runs. When he first got back here, your brain is telling you what everyone is telling you. You can't hit righties anymore. You're swinging for the fences. Well, he's turned back into a pure hitter. Brad Lidge had a lot to say about this. First of all, in the game-winning home run he allowed to Pujols in the 05 NLCS, which is still one of the loudest home runs ever to go out of Houston outside of maybe Ozuna's last year. He said, quote, I made a mistake, and it wasn't super surprising that he didn't make a mistake. Because you remember, he opened that at bat up with a great slider that Albert just whiffed at, and then he left one middle cut that Albert crushed, because that's what Albert does. All of a sudden, it started to feel like he knew what you were going to throw before you did. You felt like you had to be perfect. He had so much plate coverage, whether you're throwing a 97 mile per hour fastball or a slider down and away, you had to be perfect. If there's one thing I know from facing him, it's that he's going to win the chess match far more often than he should. And if the pitcher was able to execute a big breaking pitch, Pujols was adept at fouling the ball off to continue the at-bat, or if the pitcher was doing something with his glove or his hands to tip off the identity of the next pitch, he'd be the first guy to see it. And as we've heard from Albert's teammates over the years, he would very quickly tell all of them about it too. Greg Maddux said, the first time I faced him, I threw him a changeup that he missed by 2 or 3 feet, and I'm going, wow, okay, maybe we got something here. Next time I threw the exact same changeup, he hit it over frickin' Waveland Avenue, and I went, oh shit, maybe they have something here. This guy's pretty good. If you walked him or gave up a single, you won the at-bat. He covered the middle of the plate as well as anyone. My game plan with him was to give up a single or less. So, high praise from guys that faced him, high praise from another Hall of Famer. Guys, I loved seeing the replays of that. No doubter. First of all, his former teammate hung him a slider right on the wrists that he was going to absolutely annihilate, no questions asked. And he said after the game, I need to make sure I say thank you to him because he gave me the best gift he possibly could have with that hanging slider. And then, he circled the bases, ran over to, was that Adrian Beltre I saw behind home plate, I believe? Yeah, gave Beltre high 10 through the fence. And then, just ran over to hug all of his teammates. Just such a touching moment. And so fitting because this happened in Los Angeles that the broadcasters just stayed silent for close to a minute, if not a little more than that, to just soak the moment in. Just like Vin Scully did with Hank Aaron when he broke Babe's record, just let the silence, let the moment be the moment. I really appreciated that. Guys, we've been watching this Pujols chase now, honestly, solid for the last 2 months because it's like, oh my God, he might do it. He's getting hot. He might do it. And damn, he did it. What did you guys think when it happened?
Yeah, I mean, we were thinking, I know at least I was saying earlier in the podcast after the All-Star break, because he started getting hot and it was one of those, I think he gets there. He needs to average X number of home runs, and he just kept having multi-home run games, including the one that got him to the milestone. And I think the thing with Albert is he is just absolutely one of the best all-time hitters. I mean, not only just from his home runs, but look at the RBIs. He's 6 away from, I believe, Babe Ruth. So it's just so much fun to watch. And I have to say, I'm thankful that he did what he did against Brad Lidge, because it sent Lidge over to Philly the next year, and he had a perfect season and helped the Phillies win the World Series. So if that's what it took, I'm glad he did it. So,
and let's face it really helps to go perfect when you have to face Albert Pujols less. That had to be a definite positive contributing factor towards signing in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I just checked 6 RBIs behind Babe Ruth. Definitely not outside of the realm of possibilities of tying or passing Babe before the end of the season, especially the way he's hitting. Joe, Pujols has tormented your Cubs for years, but he's just been so good and such a classy guy. I mean, what were you thinking when he broke the barrier?
I'm excited for him. Like you said, he's tormented the Cubs, and that's well documented. We documented that after they played their last series with the Cubs. I think he had what was it, 30 home runs against them? It was insane. Or no, it was something astronomical, 50 something.
Yeah, it was a lot.
59, I think, and then 62 was, I think, Houston Astros as a club. So, I mean, the guy has obviously beaten the crap out of the Cubs, but I'm excited for him. It's nice to see these kind of records get hit, and nice to knock A-Rod down a peg or two. And, I'm happy for him. I'm excited for him. He was so much fun to watch, as tough as he was on the Cubs.
Oh, as tough as he was on everybody. He was just such a good player, good person, the whole 9 yards. So, first of all, but as a slugger, where do you rank Pujols on the all-time list of sluggers? Joe, where do you put him?
I don't know. I mean, he's certainly the best of this generation, probably without a doubt. I think, it's hard to say with with Ruth and Aaron and things like that, you're kind of looking at their numbers. You didn't watch them play. Obviously, those numbers are insane. So, he's obviously top 3, top 4 from a slugging standpoint.
Okay. Jason, where do you put him as a slugger all time?
Yeah, I have him up in the top 5. I was going back and forth as to whether or not I would have him in the top 3 and knock Barry Bonds down a bit with that whole ordeal. Because the impressive thing is that Albert has done this clean. So at least as far as we know, he's clean. So he's definitely in the top 5. Probably closer to 5, just because you do have hitters in there like Griffey, who aside from the home runs, he did have a lot of the RBIs. So you can make a case for quite a few people. So I would just have him right around top 5.
Yeah. And keep in mind, he played through the Mitchell report. So I think if anything would have been out there, it would have come out a long time ago. I think it's very safe that we can say Albert Pujols played the game completely clean.
Absolutely.
For me, I think I put him top 3, top 4 for sluggers. I'm gonna leave Hank at number 1 all time. And probably I go back and forth, but purely as a slugger, I go back and forth with Ruth, Bonds, and Pujols, where I'm putting them there. I think probably maybe Ruth, Pujols, Bonds, but give me 30 seconds to think of something else, and I would probably be just as happy to switch that order anyway. So how about purely as a hitter, slugging, everything? Let's lump it all together. Where is Pujols all time for you guys? Jason, what do you think?
As far as just hits go,
well, I mean, as his ability as a hitter, not just number of hits, like
gotcha.
His overall ability as a hitter.
He's definitely to me, like, there is a difference between being a hitter and being a slugger. Your slugger is
exactly why I separated the question.
Yeah, because your slugger is more of your power hitter, and that's what I view him more as. So I would, as far as overall hitting, I would probably drop him down a good bit, just because you have players like Ted Williams, and even though he's banned from baseball, Pete Rose. So I would drop him down a little bit more. Can't really give you a range, but okay. I picture him more as that slugger than a hitter.
Okay, Joe.
Yeah, I agree with Jason. It's a separate category when you think of even Ty Cobb, you think of DiMaggio, you think of Mantle and some of these other guys. It's obviously as a complete hitter, it's you maybe top 100, top 50 maybe.
Okay. I actually, to be honest, guys, I have him as a top 5, top 10 all-time hitter because of his ability to cover the plate, because of his ability to hit to all fields. He's driving in the RBIs. He's going to be number 2 or number 3 when his career ends. And actually, this is something else I didn't even think about with slugging, which actually kind of makes me bump him up closer to that 2 spot for slugging. Hank Aaron and Albert Pujols are the only 2 guys in the 700 club who did it without hitting 50 plus in a season. So they had longevity for it as well, which I think is also a big point in Albert's favor as well. Let's face it, for this generation of hitters, I can't think of anybody other than maybe Miggy who would be more feared than Pujols. And to be honest, I that's probably a toss-up for who's the more feared hitter. And of course, when we look at these kind of things, we're always going to be skewed more towards the righties than the lefties. There's more right-handed hitters. They're just overall throughout the history of the game. Generally, the right-handed hitters have been better because there's more of them. It's. I didn't really. I'd say top 5, top 10. I'm not sure exactly where I'd slot him in just yet, but he's without a doubt, he's one of the GOATs of the game. maybe not the greatest of the GOATs, but he's very, very high up there in my book. And the fact that he's done all of this for so long, and he was injured a lot in Anaheim and was still able to do all of this despite that. I put him up pretty high. All right, so we have one other home run chase that we're still watching, who is actually leading off in the 6th inning right now of his game. Jason, you want to talk about Aaron Judge?
Yeah, so Aaron Judge hit number 60 last Tuesday, which was September 20th. He did it while Roger Maris's sons, Roger Jr. You guys cut out on my end.
Yeah. I think you cut out. I still had me and Joe, but I lost you. I think
you guys hear me? Can you see me?
Yeah, I see you now. You were saying about his sons being there? All right, I'll take that until Jason's able to hop back on. Roger Maris's sons were both in attendance at the game, Roger Jr. and Kevin. He is now tied with Babe Ruth at 8th all-time in single-season home runs. And this is what Miguel Cabrera said on Aaron Judge's season and possibly taking the Triple Crown. Quote, "Wow, what Aaron Judge is doing is incredible. It's so exciting to see what he is doing and the way he is absolutely dominating almost every offensive category this season. I think his season is going to be remembered as one of the best in baseball history. I hope that Judge can become the next Triple Crown winner, and I hope he wins the MVP." So Jason, now that you're back, because that was odd. I don't know what the heck happened.
Yeah, not sure what happened there. Basically Miggy's hoping that he wins the MVP. I think he should.
Yeah.
Especially with what he's doing right now. So the question here for you guys is Judge your MVP without the Triple Crown? What about if he doesn't hit 61? Is he still your MVP? I mean, I think he will. He has a week and a half to hit 1. So barring some slump that he has not had the entire season, he'll get there.
So he's still on pace for like 63 or 64, I think.
Yeah. So with those things in mind, would he still be your MVP?
Yeah, 100%, no questions asked.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you point out so eloquently, Jason, most valuable player to their team, and that's without a doubt Aaron Judge this year.
Yeah, I agree completely, because without him doing what he's doing, the Yankees don't win the division. The Yankees maybe get a wild card, because his WAR right now, I believe, is like 7 or 9, or it's something astronomical.
It was 9 something the last time I looked. Let me just make sure that's accurate. 9.9.
So let's round that up to 10. So take away 10 wins, and the Yankees are definitely not as good as they were. So, I think he's absolutely the MVP. Especially when I saw an ESPN stat. I should have written it down, but they're trying to throw out these obscure stats about Ohtani with his pitching. And sorry, my phone just kind of fell. I had it propped up here to read off since my printer wasn't working. But because if you have to go fishing for these crazy stats to try and make a case for somebody, they're not your MVP.
Yeah, I know Ohtani. I know one of them's like 10 plus wins and like 30 plus home runs. And I've got Ohtani pulled up here. He's not having a terrible season pitching. Actually, a very good season. A 14-8 record, 247 ERA, which is 4th in the American League. He has 203 strikeouts, so he passed the 200 mark, a 107 whip, and a 212 average against. I mean, those are very good numbers.
Yeah.
And his offensive numbers are great as well. But look at what Judge has single-handedly been doing with the Yankees since the All-Star break, carrying a team that has literally forgotten for the most part how to win baseball games.
Yeah. So that kind of leads to something else here. And it kind of relates a little bit back to Albert. So the fan who caught Albert's number 700, he was approached immediately, as fans usually are when something like this happens. He turned down every offer and left the stadium with the ball. He's keeping it for now. Most likely you're going to find it going up for auction soon because the person's going to get absolutely paid.
Yeah.
So that leads to this question here. If you were to, and you can do it with either Pujols or with Judge here. If you were the one to catch either 700 or number 61, what would you do?
Oh, damn. I think I would I could see myself just keeping the ball, getting it authenticated, putting it in a clear case and vacuum sealing that SOB so nothing ever happens to it. I wouldn't ask for money. I would want like another autograph ball or an autograph bat or something like that, instead of money, or even an autograph picture with the player. I could certainly understand people wanting money. When my wife hears how much this ball will eventually sell for, she'll probably look at me and say, "You wouldn't sell that and give us that much money? Are you insane?" Yes, I probably am. I'm a baseball fan. I'm clearly at least partially insane, aren't we all? But to be honest, no, something like that, that's more about history than it is about money to me. What do you think, Joe?
I'm giving it to the player and moving on with my life.
Just giving it back, not asking for anything in return?
No, I mean it means so much more to them than it ever will to me. I mean, money obviously is a wonderful thing, but if the athlete would let me get a picture with them or something, or snap a selfie with it before I turn it in, something like that. But I'm not looking to collect on it. I'm not looking for anything major. It would mean a lot more to them to have than it would for me to have, I think.
Yeah, good points. What about you, Jason?
So you're offered almost $1 million to give a ball back.
Give it to the player or to sell it to an auction house?
Either.
I mean, my personal thought is I would find a way to give it to the player directly and not ask for anything.
Okay. So for me, I'm torn about this as well. I go back and forth. For me, it might depend on the situation. What is it that I have? If I have number 61, 61's been broken multiple times. So for that one, I'm thinking, okay, maybe give it back or ask for a couple autographs, picture, whatever. For something like 700, money talks at times. And I go back to what Albert said with 700. He says, the balls that are heading to the stands are souvenirs. The fan has every right to keep it, good for them. And Albert said the right thing by saying, I'm not about the material possessions as far as wanting that ball back. And I think it's different. Like, if he doesn't hit one for the rest of the season, maybe he tries to get it back from the fan. But he might try and see if he can get whatever his last home run ball is, whether it's 701, 02, 03, whatever. But for me, I'm thinking it's a ball hit into the stands. Fortunate enough to catch it. It's like hitting the lottery without playing the lottery. So I personally, I would probably see what it would get at auction, or even instead of going to auction, reach out to the player, be like, hey, what is this worth to you? I mean, if you think about it, Albert Pujols has made over $637 million playing baseball. He can probably help set you up for a good while.
So Jason Lee Rushinoff over from the Ernest Lee Network, he said he would keep the ball forever and possibly sell it when you're on your deathbed. I certainly understand that.
Yeah.
And Jason, he's got a question for you. 61 isn't anything. Needs 62 and breaks Maris, an all-time American League home run record. My question to you now is 62. Homers a season harder now than getting 700 getting 700 for a lifetime. What do you think?
I think with the baseballs that we're seeing, I think it's going to be easier to see 62 and numbers hit more than getting to the career numbers, because to get that high in your career, you have to have the longevity without the injuries. Albert got injured late, but he was able to come back. I mean, look at to bring a different sport into this. Look at hockey and Alex Ovechkin trying to get to Wayne Gretzky's record. He may get there. He still needs a good bit of help, and he needs to make sure he stays healthy from here on out. But injuries rack up, so I think it's easier to get to 62, 63 plus than it would be for career.
Yeah, I'd have to look. I don't know how close anybody else even is to reaching the 700. Let me just pull that up quick.
And the other thing to look at here, if you think about it, there's been 4 people in the entirety of baseball history to get to 700. Now, I know it's not that much more, but I believe it's 5 people to get to 61 or more. You have Maris, Bonds, you'll have Judge, and then you have the chase with McGuire and Sosa, because Sosa also got there. So that Judge would be the 5th person. So
for active players after Albert, the next active guy is Miggy at 27, and then Nelson Cruz at 39. And beyond that, you're looking at Stanton all the way down at 79. He's only at 375.
Okay, I was wondering what number you were trying to recite with 29 and
rank overall all time. Cruz has 459 and Miggy's got 506. So yeah, it's the only guy I would say who's young enough to have a reasonable chance, if he could stay healthy, this is the hard part, would be Mike Trout, who's 99th all time at 347. But as we've seen with Trout, staying healthy, not his forte.
And he has that back issue now that's going to be with him throughout the rest of his career. So I think his career longevity has already significantly decreased.
Yeah. And Jason, Albert played for 22 years. The most home runs he ever had in a season was 47. Like I said earlier, he and Hank Aaron are the only 2 players in the 700 club to never hit 50 plus in a season.
Yeah.
All right. So I love home runs like this.
Yeah. And if there's nothing else, I can keep us going with some down on the farm stuff.
Yeah, go for it.
Which down the farm, there's not a whole lot to really go over because the minor league season is in their playoffs now. So just a quick touch here for Joe. So Matt Mervis, there's a name. He's in the Cubs system. He has a slash line for this season of 309, 380, 606, 986. He has 35 home runs, 117 RBI, 39 doubles, and 2 triples. That alone is impressive. What's even more impressive is he did it across 3 levels. He started at high A, and he ended his season in AAA Iowa. So that is a name to absolutely keep an eye on here for the Cubs over the next year or two, because it's very possible that you will be seeing much more of Matt Mervis soon.
Sounds like a good guy to consider as a fantasy keeper down the road as well, if you're lucky enough to grab him late as a flyer.
Yeah. And so, Joe, do you have any thoughts on Matt Mervis before I move on with some other things for the minor leagues? Did we lose Joe?
Joe's muted. Maybe we did. Hold on.
I think
I've got two Joes. Which is the real Joe? That's the real Joe. All right, let me get rid of the fake Joe.
So, Joe, I just went over Matt Mervis's stats and everything, and how he started at high A and made it all the way up to AAA, and he's one to keep an eye on here in the future. Before I move on to more minor league stuff, do you have anything on Matt Mervis you wanted to share?
He's at 36 homers now. He had another one tonight. It gives you some excitement about, there was a lot of regret about not keeping Rizzo and all of the turnover with Schwindel and everything, and Rivas. And so kind of gives you some encouragement about first base going forward.
Yeah. So with the minor league seasons kind of winding down here, just some playoff updates for you all. In AAA, there's two divisions or two leagues there. You have the Pacific Coast League and the International League. In the Pacific Coast League, you have the El Paso Chihuahuas from the San Diego Padres playing the Reno Aces in the Diamondback system for the Pacific Coast title. And then in the International League, which is the one that the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs are in, the one that we would probably see more of, it is TBA at the moment as far as the second team. But Andrew, the Nashville Sounds, from the team that you went and saw a game at last year, the Milwaukee Brewers, they are in the International League Championship. And then basically the winner of those two leagues will actually be playing each other for the AAA championship.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't know they did that.
I didn't either until I was looking that up. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Like I said last year, if you ever get a chance, you're down in Nashville, the Sounds are home, check out a game. It is a beautiful stadium near the river. They've got a big old guitar out in right center field. That's a scoreboard. It's such a neat experience. And the fans down there are pretty knowledgeable too. So, you'll have a good time down there.
Nice. Yeah. Then AA, the season is winding down there. In the Eastern League, which is the one that we're more familiar with Reading and things like that. The former Atlantic League, now AA Eastern League, Somerset Patriots from the Yankees are playing the Erie Seawolves, the affiliate for the Detroit Tigers, in the Eastern League Championship.
Ooh.
In the Southern League, you have the Chicago Cubs affiliate, Tennessee Smokies, playing the Marlins affiliate, the Pensacola Blue Wahoos. And then in the Texas League, Wichita Wind Surge is playing the Frisco Rough Riders, and that is Wichita's Minnesota, and Frisco is the Texas Rangers. So some playoff series there wrapping up. Be interested to see who wins those. And then one more playoff update here. We have to talk about our Atlantic League guys, the Lancaster Barnstormers. So for those of you not familiar, the Atlantic League is an independent league. They're not minor league baseball affiliated, but they are affiliated with Major League Baseball in that they test out rules and changes that MLB is looking to implement. So the pitch clock that's coming out next year, the lack of a shift, the bigger bases, that all started by being tested in the Atlantic League. And our hometown team, the Lancaster Barnstormers, They ended up defeating the Southern Maryland Blue Crabs, who had a record-setting season, especially with their first half. The Stormers won in 5 games. They lost game 1 2-1, won game 2 8-7 in 10 innings with a 4-run ninth to tie it up. They lost game 3 7-3, but they won the last 2 in dominating fashion, 15-5 and 10-2. So they are the North Division champions, playing for their 3rd Atlantic League championship, their first since 2014. Which I was at the clinching game for that, and it was a walk-off home run to win it, which was spectacular, even though it was pouring. It was so bad weather-wise. And they will face the High Point Rockers, who was the wild card team this year because the team that they played, the Gastonia Honey Hunters, they ended up winning both halves. So the Rockers got the wild card, and they won in 5 as well. And that is a big surprise because Gastonia was the top team in the entire league for basically the whole season. So Stormers versus Rockers. Games 1 and 2 are in High Point. Games 3 and then 4 and 5 are, if necessary, will be in Lancaster. And I believe it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as far as 3, 4, and 5 are concerned for us. So go Stormers, Code Red, bring it home.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been way too long since we had that title in Lancaster. So hey, I'd love to see them bring it back again. All right. Next up, Joe, how about Release the Good with the Clemente Award nominees?
Yeah, so I don't have too many obviously big memories of Clemente. My biggest first real knowledge about Roberto Clemente was dying in a plane crash doing humanitarian work in Nicaragua. So I mean, I think I really enjoy the fact that he was such a guy who gets it. We've talked about that a lot with Release the Good over the last few weeks. Players that get it. The Roberto Clemente Award, it's for players who best represent the game of baseball through their character, community involvement, and charity work, on and off the field. A couple of guys throughout the league who are nominated for this: Joey Votto, Tony Kemp, Bednar from the Pirates, Diekman for the Red Sox, Jason Hayward for the Cubs. But a couple of guys I wanted to highlight. Dylan Tate with the Orioles does a lot of work with what's called, his foundation is Baseball Academia, where he aims to teach children and young athletes lessons on personal development and how to improve their skills on and off the field. So he's making a huge difference. He's hosted more than 100 athletes at the ballpark this year. And there's some other visits scheduled there, but he, is making a big difference. He made a personal contribution to Austin Hayes's fundraising project for mental health awareness this year, and pushing the total raise to more than $12,000. So a couple of guys in Baltimore doing some good work in that regard. The other one is Josh Rojas from the Diamondbacks. Phoenix, Arizona native, so he's eat, sleep, and breathe Phoenix and Arizona and that culture and that life. So he's making a huge impact for his community too, in the West Valley there in Arizona. In the town is Buckeye, where he played as a kid. He offers free camps and clinics all the time. He buys equipment for the high school baseball team every year. Offers college scholarships to student athletes in the area. At an event in the Diamondbacks Evening on the Diamond Gala this year, $120,000 was raised to support youth baseball and scholarships. And then it's just really, interesting to see what some of these guys are doing. And then the other one for the Braves, Tyler Matzik was the Braves nominee. He does a lot of work with mental health and awareness and promoting taking care of things with anxiety and depression. Tyler committed to creating the Strikeout the Stigma campaign. He donates $250 for every strikeout this year, with the goal of raising $30,000. So a hat tip to guys making a difference in their communities, guys who just get it, as we say, get it that the game is bigger than them. So a hat tip to all of those guys for their individual clubs, but I particularly wanted to highlight those three guys for making big differences where they're at.
Absolutely. And one thing that really hits home with Matzix, he was originally a first-round draft pick by the Rockies, and he got the yips basically in the minors. He could not get out of his head, actually left baseball for a while, seeked mental health counseling and whatnot, decided to give it another go. And honestly, he's one of my favorite success stories that the Braves have had over the last couple of years. Seeing a guy literally dig his way back from rock bottom to get back to the top of his game and to even at times be completely dominant, as we saw in the late postseason last year, where he wasn't letting anything out past him. It emphasizes too that mental health is something that this country needs to take much more seriously. We need more resources for it. We need more professionals to help with it. So, I hope that there are more charities like this out there from players, and I really hope that it does continue to make a positive impact on the communities as well. All right, so moving on, we have our weekly playoff updates, since we are getting very, very close to the end. We're down to the last three series, which is crazy to think about. If the season ended today, AL is looking as such: Astros 1, Yankees 2, Guardians 3, Blue Jays 4, Rays 5, Mariners 6. So the wild card round would be Rays Blue Jays and Mariners Guardians. The Astros would take the winner of Rays Jays. Yankees would get the winner of Mariners and Guardians. In the National League, it is Dodgers 1, Mets 2, Cardinals 3, Braves 4, Padres 5, Phillies 6. It would be Braves Padres in the wild card round and Cardinals Phillies. The Dodgers would get the winner of the Braves and Padres. The Mets would get the winner of the Cardinals and the Phillies. So berths that have been clinched so far: the Dodgers have clinched the NL West in the number 1 overall seed. The Astros have clinched the AL West. The Mets have clinched a playoff berth, which they actually clinched on Max Scherzer's 200th career win. So congratulations to Mad Max on that. Please don't win this week in Atlanta. It will be their first playoff appearance since 2016. Wow, it really has been a while. No wonder Mets fans are getting so antsy. The Braves clinched a playoff berth, and they have also clinched that whoever loses the NL East will hold the top wild card spot. The Yankees clinched their playoff berth. They should have the division wrapped up shortly, I would think. The Guardians have clinched the AL Central. That's their first division title since 2018. Some races to watch: the NL East. The Braves and the Mets will play later this week, which will likely determine the division winner. Remaining games: the Braves are actually on the road for most of the end. 3 at the Nats, 3 home versus the Mets, 3 at the Marlins. And one thing, guys, I didn't even think about, with Hurricane Ian coming in, that's scheduled to start hitting Florida right about the time that series rolls in. So we could be seeing some crazy weather-related shifts coming up towards the end of this week for some teams. And then the Mets, they have a slightly easier, more home-based schedule: 2 versus the Marlins, 3 at the Braves, 3 versus the Nats. In the wild card race, the loser of the AL East, like I said, they already clinched the top wild card spot. Here's the thing: 5 and 6 and 7 are extremely close. The Padres are only a game and a half up on the Phillies, who are only a game and a half up over the Brewers. Now, technically, the Giants aren't eliminated yet, but they're 8.5 out, so I'm not really factoring the Giants into anything, and nobody should. Now, something new this year: we are not going to have any Game 163s. If there are tiebreakers, we have tiebreaker criterion. I don't really like this. I'm so mad now, especially that we didn't get that max chaos theory that we were hoping for last year, especially now that it's all gone. So looking at the tiebreakers in the NL, the Brewers have nothing. So the Brewers have to pass San Diego and or Philadelphia to get into the wild card. And Philadelphia holds the tiebreaker over San Diego. So if they end up tied, Philly will jump up and then play Atlanta or the Mets, whoever takes the top wild card. So looking at games remaining, the Padres 3 versus the Dodgers, 3 versus the White Sox, 3 versus the Giants. The Phillies have a ton of games left. 3 at the Cubs, 4 at the Nats, the doubleheader Saturday, and 3 at the Astros. Jason, that doesn't actually look as bad as it initially did, though, because the Astros are probably going to be resting for most of that series. So that's good, at least. And then go ahead.
Yeah. And I think the big thing for them is also the fact that they have the tiebreaker over both the Padres and the Brewers, because essentially that takes that 1.5 game lead and makes it a 2.5 game lead. So I'm still very anxious about the final week. But I did see a stat. It's a stat that absolutely could happen. I'm hoping that it doesn't, but if the Phillies go 5-5, so they end up 500 on this road trip, the Brewers would have to go 7-2 in order to pass the Phillies.
And here's one thing that hurts the Brewers. The Cardinals haven't clinched yet, so that the Cardinals will be throwing everything at them in that 2-game mini series.
Right. The Cardinals can clinch with a win. I believe their magic number is 2. So it's one of those I'm really, really pulling for the Cardinals to clean up on the Brewers this week, get those 2 losses out, because that makes it the magic number, I believe, is 8. So that would make it 6 combined with a couple Phillies wins, and they're fine. So I'm still anxious because the Phils have not played the best on the road, but they do have the teams that you want to play on the road, especially Washington. So they need to take care of business.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the Brewers, like I said, 2 versus the Cardinals, 4 versus the Marlins, 3 versus the Diamondbacks. So they're home the rest of the way out. But outside the Cardinals, it's not a world-killing schedule, although as us NL East guys know, the Marlins are always a wild card as to what's going to show up for them.
Yeah, and the thing here is the odds are not great for a sweep. If the Cardinals win both of these games in that short series, it's really going to put a lot of pressure on the Brewers to essentially almost win out.
Well, and you know what? They got exposed over the weekends with the Reds on Sunday. They had a 1-0 lead for most of that game and then gave up 2 late and couldn't come back. Also, did you guys realize the Reds leader in saves has 9 saves? He hasn't even hit double digits. Yikes. But that's a game Milwaukee could not afford to drop, and they did. So I just like I said last week, my brother's a Cubs fan, has been for years and years and years. And if I learned anything of value from Alex, it's that you'd never trust the Brewers. And what did we point out last year in the playoffs? What did we point out over the offseason? What did we point out at the beginning of the season? They didn't address the fact that they have so little offense. They're running on pitching alone. And while pitching wins championships, you still need some offense to come through every now and then, because you shouldn't be losing 2-1 games against the Reds, who have an absolutely atrocious team ERA. Hey, Ronnie's on tonight. Saw his first Bryce Harper home run in person. It was awesome. Stadium was going nuts. Ronnie, which game was that? I'm assuming it was one of the Braves games.
He was there Saturday.
Saturday. Nice. Yeah, I was, and I'll get into this later. I was at a third of the game on Sunday with that weird rain delay. We'll get into that later, though.
Just wanted to touch quickly again with the Brewers and the Phillies race. I'm kind of leaving the Padres out of it because the Padres are looking overall like they're going to be one of the wild card teams. But basically the Phils, what I'd like to see them do in any short series, especially on the road, split with the Cubs. Ideally, it's a 3-game series. Win the series against the Cubs. don't need a sweep, but take 2 there and then take 3 of the 4. So you're then sitting okay. Basically, win the series that you have the rest of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're not playing outside the Astros. And like I said, the Astros probably won't be playing most starters. You're not playing heavy hitting teams to end the season. So you got it. This is the time to put up or shut up and win the games you're supposed to win. All right, the AL East, likely the Yankees to lose at this point. The Blue Jays are 8.5 games behind them, so that's probably safe. I know the Yankees haven't been playing great, but they should be okay. Now, the AL wild card, nobody has clinched anything yet, and this is extremely close. This is going to be a race to watch the whole way out. The Blue Jays have a 2-game lead over the Rays and a 2.5-game lead on the Mariners, who are, of course, a half game behind the Rays. Orioles are definitely still in this fight, guys. They're only 4 games back. Mathematically speaking, the White Sox and Twins are still in the hunt, but are 7.5 and 9.5 games back. So we're going to discount that as well because coming into games tonight, they were on 6-game losing streak with the White Sox, and the Twins are on a 1-game, but they're 2-8 in their last 10. So they're about as cold as it is possible to be right now. I think it is very, very, very safe to say that we can pretty much ignore them. So looking at the tiebreakers, the Mariners have a tiebreaker over the Blue Jays, but they lose to the Rays. Tampa has the tiebreaker over the Blue Jays because they split the last series, so Tampa took the overall season series. So here's what we have going the rest of the way out. Blue Jays 3 versus the Yankees, 3 versus the Red Sox, 3 at the Orioles. That's going to be huge. That last series between the Orioles and the Blue Jays is going to be huge. The Rays 3 at the Guardians, 3 at the Astros, 3 at the Red Sox. That actually bodes well for them because the Red Sox are eliminated. Guardians clinched. The Astros have clinched. And by the time the Astro series rolls around, they should have top record clinched. So that's probably going to be pretty safe there. They're not going to be facing the worst of the worst. Now, the Mariners, and they have been in a horrible slump lately. It seems like they can't get anything going. But if you can't get anything going, 3 versus the Rangers, 3 versus the A's, and 4 versus the Tigers, you can't get much better than that to close out your season. So we'll see if the Mariners can hold on. And the Orioles 4 at the Red Sox, 3 at the Yankees. Then they get the Blue Jays at home for that last series. So here's the thing, guys, even if Baltimore gets eliminated, Baltimore will still be a big player of things to come because they could basically say, oh, you knocked us out of the wild card. Okay, screw you. We're going to mess with you too. And I am all on board for that, although I'm not going to lie. I'm really pulling hard for the Orioles. I want to see them get back to the playoffs. I would really love to see the Orioles move on, play the Astros, and beat up the Astros just to stick it to the Angelos. They never should have traded Trey Mancini. Although I know how incredibly unlikely that is. Yes, I'm aware of that before we delve into those numbers. So, guys, this is going to be a hell of a week and a half to end the season. What are you guys thinking? I mean, Braves Mets, that's going to be a huge series if the rain doesn't screw anything up there, which, let's face it probably will. It's that time of the year and that the southern United States gets very, very affected by hurricane activity. The NL wild card and the AL wild card, these are, I'm still not wild about the third wild card because I don't like so many teams in, but these are definitely leading to some very fun and interesting races to watch down the stretch.
Right now, I'm very thankful for the third wild card.
Understandable. Although you could catch San Diego.
Oh, I agree. Especially if the Dodgers, while the Dodgers will probably be resting, they may want to play spoiler against the Padres. So
that would be a 100% Dodger thing to do to the Padres. Let's be realistic here.
Oh, yeah.
Joe, I know you're out, but the Cubbies are out, but there's still a lot of intrigue here. What are you most looking forward to in the last of these playoff chases as they wind down?
I think the teams are fairly set. I think it's just a matter of letting it play out at this point. We said this a few weeks ago. We felt like that Milwaukee 1.5 or 2 games back felt like 6. The way that they were not playing, and it's come to bear. I think I feel like that 1.5 game lead, like you said, Jason, it's 2.5, but it feels like more than that. The Padres are kind of squeaking in. Do they really deserve to be there? I mean, they're ahead right now, but I think I think if Harper's not hurt for an extended period of time, the Phillies are in that spot locked in at this point.
Yeah. And the thing with Harper is he's also been struggling in the month of September. He's batting under 200 in September. So if he started finding it near the end of the Braves series, if he can do that the rest of this regular season, he and Schwarber, they can put the team on their back and carry them to the playoffs.
Yeah, of course he would, start to pick that up during the Braves series, because of course he would. But yeah, and not gonna lie, Jason, from what I saw, I didn't see anything wrong with Harper's swing or anything else. It looked fine. Bat was loud. So yeah, I don't think you need to worry about him. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, it's been more of the plate discipline at the moment. He had been swinging at things he usually doesn't swing at, and just easy to get his eye back on.
I think, and I think that comes from what he had to do on his MVP season last year and carry that team. But he doesn't quite have to carry the team as badly as he did. Well, he still has to carry a lot of that team, but he doesn't have to carry nearly as much as he needed to last year. Let's face it. And is Castellanos coming back in the regular season?
Tomorrow night.
Okay. So that'll help too, to get another bat in there to give Bryce a break.
Yeah, Andrew, I'm curious what you think about the Mets series. Do you think they go ahead and get ahead of it and move it?
They can't.
Somewhere neutral?
Location.
Yeah.
They could move location. It's premature to say that right now. I'm sure if they're going to do that, that's going to be a very last minute decision to move that. I'm just trying to think of where they would move that to. I'm
sure there's a park somewhere down there you could put it to.
They would probably have to go west or northwest, because the hurricane's going to come up a bit. Plus, you have a lot of teams are home. The Nationals are home later this week against the Phils, so it's not like they can just go to Nationals Park and have the Nationals play on the road.
And let's face it, Atlanta would not play in National Stadium and give the Mets a chance at a home field advantage. They would definitely. Honestly, Jason, I think they would say let's go play in Nashville before they would say let's go play in Washington in a smaller stadium. Are the Rangers home? No, the Rangers are up in Seattle. So that's a possibility. They could go to Texas. Here's the thing too. I mean, this is, I know the stadium's not set up for it, but the Falcons might be willing to let them use the Benz Dome and reconfigure it slightly to make it baseball appropriate for 3 games. One thing about the city of Atlanta, those sports teams all have each other's backs. Social media, they're all very active, rooting for each other, backing each other up. A lot of the athletes commingle, outside of sports. So I could even see something like that happening. Although, like I said, the Mercedes-Benz Dome is not set up for baseball. So I don't know about the logistics of making that happen.
And if you're not going to be able to play it at Truist, then you probably shouldn't play it in the city of Atlanta.
Well, you could. It just, if it's just rain and it's not flooding rains, that's different than, when we had to evacuate New Orleans because Katrina was rolling through.
Yeah, and that stadium it's designed only for football and concerts. Like they don't have the actual room to build a ballpark in there because of the stands and the shape of everything. So that's
it's not built with modular stands that you can move around. Right. Okay. Yeah.
So I think if anything, you'll see them I think you may see them go to Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my guess. Rangers, Astros, something like that, because that's also still close enough for Atlanta fans to be able to get to easily enough. It's it's a bit more of a hassle, but
Yeah, and the Astros are just about home for the rest of their season because they're home later this week against the Rays and then home against the Phils next week. So
okay, so it'd probably be the Rangers then.
it'll probably be the Rangers.
Okay, it could be worse. That's a beautiful ballpark. So it's Truist, but when we were watching during the shortened season because the pandemic and all of the playoff games were held, or most of them were held out there, it was a beautiful ballpark for it. So, hey, I'd be okay with that if that's what would happen. I'd prefer it to be in Atlanta, but you know what? If it can't happen, it can't happen. We're at the point in the season where you can't just move the series; it's got to be played. And Atlanta will absolutely not say yes to moving the series to New York. No way in hell will that ever happen.
No,
and I don't think baseball would ask them to do that. I think it's somewhere within their footprint is where it's going to stay, but it's just a matter of whether it's played or not.
Yeah. So it's going to be. There is a lot to watch later this week. I'm going to be. I'm going to be watching weather reports. Ronnie, honestly, to be honest, man, I wouldn't be upset if they played in Philly because I could go see some of those games. And the Braves play pretty well in Philadelphia, honestly. Matt Olson, although he didn't hit a home run when I was there on Sunday, came really close. Maybe that would be enough to get Olson re-sparked and going again because, God, he's been cold as ice for the last 3.5, 4 weeks. He's been worse than Harper.
Yeah, and the thing for this is it possible that the Mets have the series locked up before this weekend? I'm not entirely sure what their magic number is because say the Mets clinch the division, there's going to be no movement between the Mets and the Braves in their positioning. It's possible that they just say forget the series.
Yeah, because it wouldn't make a difference in the wild card. I'm pulling up what the magic number is. Let's see here. Where is it? Here we go. Nope, not the Blue Jays. Keep going. Stop putting American League teams first, please. National League's better. Okay. No, magic number is 8. So they cannot clinch before the series.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's going to have to be played. Now, if the Mets win game 1 and clinch, and the weather starts to turn, I could see both teams saying, let's just cancel it because it doesn't matter. I could absolutely see that. Both teams are not going to say no to the chance to rest pitchers late in September going into the playoffs. So, like I said, first top wild card's locked up for whichever team loses the division. So, yeah, that's a good thought, Jason. Here's the thing, too. The Braves need to sweep the Mets to take the tiebreaker because the Mets hold a 2-game lead in the season series head-to-head. So the Braves could still win the series but not have the tiebreaker. So that's also one thing that they have to consider as well. So, there's going to be – I got to tell you, I'm glad I'm not the MLB guy in charge of logistics right now because I'm looking at the weather forecast and the division runs and everything. I'm going, this could either be a breeze, no pun intended, for the countries that have already gotten wrecked by this hurricane, or my next week and a half is going to be holy hell and I'm not going to sleep and I'm going to be living off Red Bull and Monster. So, we'll see what happens there. All right, so – here, Jason, why don't we jump this around a little bit? Let's talk about the Phillies first, and then we'll team up on the Braves-Phillies series.
Cool. Yeah, so not the best week for the Phils, not the worst week for the Phils. Basically, they did what they need to do the rest of the season, which is play 500 ball. Had a short 2-game series at home against the Blue Jays. This was their final homestand of the regular season, 6 games. Lost game 1, 18-11. Bounce back and won game 2, 4-3 in 10 innings. And then we get to the Braves series. And game one was just a phenomenal pitching duel by both teams here, and ended up being a 1-0 win for the Phils, with a sacrifice fly being the deciding run in the second inning. Phils then got to Odorizzi this time around and won 9-1 in game two. And then I'll let you start taking over. I'll just do the scores here, and you can talk about your game then later. They did end up with a split against the Braves. They lost the last two games 6-3 and 8-7 and 11. And basically just a couple thoughts here. It's about what I expected. It's essentially what I was hoping for. I mean, of course, you always want more, but anytime you can split a short series against a good team and split a series against a good team, you take it. So wish they would have gotten that last one, because I'm not a fan of them waiting 2 hours yesterday to play the final game. It would have been an official game. It would have been a 6-5 Phillies win. I don't see why the grounds crew was like, yeah, let's play. Because
I don't think it was the grounds crew. I think that was MLB.
Because isn't it where the grounds crew has to notify the crew chief of the umpiring crew whether or not it's playable?
So here, let's delve into that, because I was at the game on Sunday. They should have pulled the tarp sooner. They should have pulled the tarp after
it was
that
a
first
torrential pour.
Yeah.
There was
that first sack fly. After that, they should have pulled the tarp out, because it was raining hard enough that you could tell players on both sides were being affected by it. You could see Morton slowing down on the mound because he didn't want to pitch because he couldn't grip the ball. It was raining hard enough that he was having trouble physically gripping the ball to pitch. I mean, one, he didn't want to hit a guy and injure a guy. You know, I think that was probably the foremost thought in his mind. I don't even think at that point he probably could have cared less about the score. He was more about, I might just lose the ball and, bean somebody and, end their season. And I don't want to do that. The umpires screwed up big time. They should have pulled the tarps after the first sack fly. Anybody with half a brain reading the radar could see heavy stuff was moving in quickly, and they should have, that park drains better than most parks do. I understand that. But that's the outfield. That's not the infield.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I don't think that 2 hours, that's an insanely long rain delay that most parks will not do. The Sunday night game they called after maybe an hour. So
but there's a big difference in that game, though. That the Braves-Phillies game had playoff implications for both teams, whereas the Sunday night game didn't. And they could see on the radar that it was going to clear up. It wasn't going to affect travel for either team going into the next day, because Atlanta was just going to hop on the train and train down to Washington. That's an hour-and-a-half train ride. It's not a long ride. Philly had the day off to travel to Chicago, so it didn't affect anybody's travel plans, really. I'm sure Snitker probably sent the next day's starter to Washington immediately just to get there and just get some rest. And Kyle Mueller is pitching very well tonight as the Braves won 8. I'm sorry, not Kyle Mueller. He's pitching tomorrow. Bryce Elder threw very well tonight as the Braves took it 8-0 for the first game. So clearly the 2-hour rain delay didn't affect the Braves getting into Washington. They did just fine. Mm-hmm. They even had their White House visit today. So it's not like it was going to be an easy day for Atlanta.
Yeah. I'm just thinking the Phillies should have been pushing as hard as they could to get that game called. So it's
the Phillies. Here's the thing. The Phillies players screwed themselves. So I was at the game Sunday with our buddy Matt from 3 Count Thursday and Huddle Up as well. Matt has season tickets for the games for just Sunday, or is he full season? I can't remember.
He has the Sunday plan.
Okay. And great guy. We had a great time, honestly, even though we got rained out and left early because we were not going to sit through a 2-hour rain delay. That was insane.
I don't know many fans that would, which is another reason they should have called it.
I was surprised how many people were left in the ballpark after the delay. Well, they were playing like the Eagles game, and they were playing all sorts of stuff on the big screen to keep people interested. I know that. But here's we're watching the game, and when it's starting, we're like, probably need to pull the tarp soon, guys. We should really be pulling the tarp soon. What the hell are we doing? Why was the tarp not pulled yet? The crew chief, I don't know why they delayed, because if they wouldn't have, because I saw the infield was really not great because they waited so damn long. I mean, they had to use a ton of, what's that stuff called, dirt dryer or whatever, the drying agent they
That's
put down.
sand, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called because I work on a golf course. We don't dry dirt out. We let the dirt stay muddy. Just not what we do.
But that's more reason to call the game.
Like, I don't know what went into the thought process. I know Atlanta would have raised hell if they weren't allowed a chance to play again. But here's the thing. What me and Matt, Jason, we were watching Segura and Marsh's at bats. We're like, just strike out. The inning's over. You can definitely call it an official game at that point. Why are you still fighting and grinding these at bats out? Like, what was the point of that?
Yeah. The thing is, it would have been an official game anyway.
It would have, but the players might not have known that. I don't know how aware they are of that because that happens so infrequently.
Right. That's what my point is. It shouldn't matter. Yeah, but my point is it shouldn't matter if they try to strike out or not. It's still an official game, whether you get through the rest of the inning or whether you don't. So that's right. But it's a moot point.
As I was saying, though, like the points you were bringing up in the group chat, I thought it was pretty cut and dried, but the way you were looking at it, it wasn't quite so cut and dried.
Yeah.
And, we're guys with decent baseball knowledge, and we couldn't come up with a decent consensus. So I can understand the players not as well. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Because it's state. I'm trying to see if I can get the verbiage very correct here, and you can look it up if you want. But it says 15 outs by the visiting team, and the home team has the lead, or 15 outs for both teams through 5, which it was that was kind of getting.
Here, I have it, Jason. A game is considered a regulation game, also known as a, quote, official game, once the visiting team has made 15 outs, 5 innings, and the home team is leading, or once the home team has made 15 outs, regardless of score.
Yeah. So it's that.
Yeah, they could have called it.
Yeah, it's that that I think threw me because they had 15 outs, and when they had their 15 outs, the home team did not have the lead.
Yeah.
But the home team got it later in the inning. So that would have been 15 outs and the home team has the lead. So, yeah. But
it is a moot point. Here's the other thing, too. And I think I was reading an article. I can't remember where I read it. But, with San Diego losing a tiebreaker because of a game in the midseason, I think we're going to start seeing teams push more and more to say we're not canceling games or we'll postpone, but we're not going to cancel because this might play a fact. Like it used to be a game in the middle of July. Who cares? Just cancel it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or just end it after 5. Nobody cares because it's not going to matter much in the grand scheme. But with these tiebreakers now, that matters a lot more than it used to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the thing here for me is MLB is all about, we want to make the game shorter and all this. And
it's our game.
It was 4 hours without the delay.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me that you're trying to
a half hour long.
You can't tell me that you're trying to cut down the length of the games and then have a 2-hour rain delay.
Yeah, I don't know. They
need to get something more uniform as far as like a limit for rain delays or something.
I was fully expecting them to call that game. I was expecting it to be called and be done. I was not expecting them to come back out. And then we're on the turnpike, and I just pulled up the MLB app, I saw it was still listed as delayed. I was like, wait, I thought they called this. It's delayed still. And then the Braves came back out and showed that they've got a much stronger bullpen than Philadelphia does. When Philly brought in Jason, what's the guy's
Bilotti.
name? Yeah, when they brought Bilotti, and I was like, oh, wait a second, Jason told me about this guy. We're about to win the game, and they did.
I think that's exactly what I tweeted too was, oh, good. The Phillies clearly don't want to win today because they're going to bring Bilotti in for the 10th.
And the crazy thing is,
or
he
the
doesn't
11th, yeah.
have bad stats. He's like stat wise, he's not that bad. It's just
he's not good in the high pressure situations.
That's exactly it.
What they should have done, you used Zach Eflin in the 10th. He's
why didn't they run him back out?
He's a former starter. Let him just take over.
Yeah. I was really surprised Eflin didn't come back out in the 11th. Well, and then the Phillies were pushing all in on trying to get those runs quick, which I get, but when you don't convert the runs, you get screwed. They pulled out Schwarber for a pinch runner. They pulled out Hoskins for a pinch runner, and made Alec Bohm play first base, which I'm sure didn't make you feel very good.
No, he would be a first baseman. Like I fully expect at some point if they get a different third baseman, they'll like if Hoskins leaves, they'll snag a third baseman and slide him over to first.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But like there's like the starter, well, Real Muto came in. That I was fully expecting Real Muto to be pinch hitting late. He struck out. That was, Philly, and I get it. Thompson was trying to get the spark. He was trying to get them going. He didn't want to drag that game out any longer because he knew Atlanta had the better bullpen. So, it was what it was. Looking at that game, though, Jason, it was Fan Appreciation Day, and they were, doing giveaways all throughout the game. Absolutely electric atmosphere. That home run Schwarber hit in the first inning that barely kissed the foul pole. So it hit the fence on the section next to us, bounced back to a guy that was one row back, 4 seats over from where we were. Absolutely. I've never been that close to a major league home run ball in my life. And that's actually exactly where Matt's seats are going to be next season too. He's like, you've got to be kidding me right now. And the Braves were replaying it. I called back to the guy. Yeah, I was wearing my Chipper jersey. I called back to hey, is there a yellow mark? He turns, here it is. I'm like, shit, we lost that challenge. Yeah, it was honestly great time. And I actually ran into some old friends from way back at R.R. Donnelly. Elwood was there. Chicky was there. So, great atmosphere, even though we didn't get to see the end of it. Just a couple other notes. Sorry, this ran long. Sorry, Joe. I didn't mean it to run this long.
How was the rest of the Braves series?
So they took 2 out of 3 from the Nationals. They won game 1 5-2, game 2 3-2, dropped game 3 3-2. And then just 2 player notes. Kyle Wright picked up wins 19 and 20th over the last week. First Braves pitcher to win 20 games since Russell Ortiz in 2003. There's a name you don't hear very often anymore. And like I said, I think he's probably safe to clinch, but maybe not, depending on how the teams run starters on short rest for playoff spots. He could be the first Braves pitcher to lead MLB in wins since Tom Glavine in 2000, which, considering the way Kyle Wright's major league career started and to where he is now, phenomenal turnaround. I just love seeing it. Also, Charlie Morton, even though he blew 3 freaking leads on Sunday, did pick up his 200th strikeout of the season, his 4th 200 strikeout campaign of his career. And this is the first time the Braves have had two starters with 200 plus strikeouts in the modern era, which is just crazy. Crazy that they've never done that before now. The only other note I have, Spencer Strider, they did put him on the IL retroactive to the original oblique injury. He is done for the regular season, but they're saying he should be fine for the postseason. Let's hope so. If the Braves don't take the division and don't have that bye, they're going to need their flame-throwing strikeout artist in that first round against the Padres. All right, Joe, how about the Cubbies, bud?
Well, first off, they should have called the game.
I'm
going to get my 2 cents in after the last 15 minutes. So
to be honest, man, I was fully expecting them to. I was shocked that they didn't. I really was. I got nothing. I don't know why they didn't call it.
Yeah. Cubs, a good week, I think. 2 out of 3 from the Fish. They lose game 1, 10-3. Game 2, they win 2-1. Game 3, 4-3 win. The series against the Pirates, they win. They take 3 out of 4, 3-2, 6-5 wins, 6-0 loss on Saturday, and an 8-3 win on Sunday. The way Miley has pitched this year, it's like, okay, what did the Reds know last year? Because he made 2 starts this week and was absolutely god awful. And he's been hurt most of the year. So that was something of note between the 2 series because he was just, 7 innings pitched total, 10 hits, 10 runs. Only 6 of those runs are earned, but still 10 runs.
So what we're saying is he will not be on the hot pitchers list.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
That's a lot of unearned runs. Holy crap.
Yeah. The other pitching note is, there's 2 of them. Adrian Sampson is pitching himself onto the roster next year in some capacity or to somebody else's roster. 2 win or almost had 2 wins, 1 win and 1 no decision this week for him. Both quality starts. So 12 innings pitched between the 2 starts, 12 hits, and 2 runs given up. So he's having himself a heck of a go here. He has 6 quality starts this year. He's 3-5, 94 innings, 94 2/3 innings, and 64 strikeouts this year. So he's getting some productive minutes when he gets his time. And Keegan Thompson is back. 5 innings pitched this last week. 1 hit given up, 1 run, no runs given up, and 9 strikeouts. So he's back and feeling pretty good. Esteban Quiroz is a guy who was brought up last week, made his debut. 2 for 3 in his debut Tuesday against the Fish. For the week, 389, 500, 889, 3 RBIs, 3 runs, 7 hits on the week for him. So really good week for him. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Wesneski. So far, we have won that trade with the Yankees. Wesneski went 6 1/3 Thursday night, 5 hits, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts, including an immaculate inning in the 5th. It's their first immaculate inning since LaTroy Hawkins in 2004, and it's the 6th immaculate inning in Major League Baseball this year.
Bravo.
Yeah.
6 this year. That's crazy. All right. So moving on to the hot players. My 3 for the week, I had Steve Kwan of the Guardians, 438, 471, 759 runs scored, 2 homers, 10 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, 14 hits, 2 triples, 2 walks, and a strikeout. That's a hell of a line this week. Pete Alonso of the Mets, 333, 407, 875, 9 runs, 4 homers, 13 RBIs, 1 stolen base, a double, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. And I had Brian Reynolds of the Pirates, 500, 593, 7 runs, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, a stolen base, 2 doubles, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. And look at all the guys we didn't put on because those are freaking incredible lines. Jason, Joe, do you guys have anybody else that you're putting on for the regular hot hitters list?
No.
All right, Joe, who is the Moneyball player of the week?
The Moneyball player of the week here, Gleyber Torres with the Yankees, 400, 538, 900, a OPS of 1438, 6 runs, 8 hits, a double, 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, 6 walks, 5 strikeouts and a stolen base. With all of the focus on Judge the last couple of weeks in particular, they've been looking for other guys to, produce runs, and Gleyber was up to the task last week.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great line.
Another former Cub.
Yeah. Big list of them by now. Hot pitchers for the week. I've got Max Scherzer because you can't not put the guy on who picked up win 200, although he would have been on regardless. 2-0, 12 innings, 16 strikeouts, a .75 ERA, a .42 whip, 1 earned run, 4 hits, 1 walk, 1 home run allowed. Christian Javier of the Astros, 1-0, 11 innings, 14 strikeouts, ERA of 0, .55 whip, 2 hits, 4 walks. Clayton Kershaw of the Dodgers, 2-0, 12 innings, 17 strikeouts, 2.25 ERA, 1.17 whip, 3 earned runs, 13 hits, a walk, 1 home run allowed. Do you guys have any other pitchers to put on for this week?
Did you have Kyle Bradish from the Orioles?
I did not. No, I was trying to limit how many I put on this week because I figured we might run a little long.
Okay. I had him 10 strikeouts, 2 hits over 8 2/3, 1-0 for the week for him. Zach Gallen was 8 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 13 strikeouts, and a walk, and he didn't get the win in that game, which is ridiculous. And the pitcher who gets the least help from his team, including the last week, Dylan Cease, 12 innings, 8 hits, 1 run, 1 hit batter, 6 walks, 8 strikeouts. I mean, he gives you a shot to win every 5th day. And the fact that they didn't take advantage of that this year is just disgusting.
I mean, what else can the dude do? It's like every time he pitches, the White Sox offense ceases to exist or something. I don't know, man. Joe, who's the adulting reliever of the week?
So we're going to mention one is a sort of an honorable mention. It's for what he was able to do for his team this last week. That would be Emmanuel Clace of the Guardians. 4 appearances, 3 for 4 in saves. Did get a win. And 4 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs. The run number is not obviously very sexy for a reliever, but 3 strikeouts, 1 homer, 1 hit by pitch. A big reason that they clinched the division this week. So a hat tip to him. The other one I wanted to mention is Jose Alvarado with the Phillies. Made 3 appearances, 1 for 1 in save opportunities, 3 1/3, 1 hit, a walk, 7 strikeouts, a .60 whip, and a .091 batting average against. Your adulting reliever of the week, Scott Barlow from the Kansas City Royals. 3 for 3 in saves, 4 appearances, 4 2/3, 1 hit, no runs, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, a .43 whip, and a .067 batting average off of them.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. Can't argue with that. Yeah, Alvarado, man, I was very happy that the Phillies only had him pitch 1 inning in that last game because if I'm not mistaken, he struck out the side, and then the game before that he struck out 2 in an inning in the 3rd. So I was very, very, very pleased that he only pitched 1 inning instead of 2.
He needed to only pitch 1. Usually if he comes out again, he struggles that 2nd inning. So
he's a max effort guy.
Yeah.
With the stain. Okay. Makes sense. I mean, when you throw a 102 mile an hour sinker, I could see that taking a lot out of you. That's understandable. All right, guys. Hot teams for me. I have the Yankees, the Guardians, the Astros, the Braves, the Mets, the Cubs, the Dodgers, and the Padres for this week. Anybody to add or remove? No one, Joe. No one, Jade. Wow.
No complaints. I mean, Houston's 12-3 in the last 15. There's not much to argue with there.
Yeah. No, Houston's been absolutely on a roll. No doubt about it.
The fact that the Dodgers split with the Diamondbacks is a bit disappointing, but
let's face it, they're clinched. They don't care.
Still a good week.
Yeah. I think if I'm not mistaken, they tied their franchise record in wins as well. I think I read that. So, the Dodgers, I mean, at this point, it's all freaking ice cream cake for them the rest of the way out, whatever happens. They don't care. They're done. They're just sitting back and waiting to see who they have to deal with in the NLDS round. All right. So this week coming up, the Braves, like I said, 3 at the Mets, 3 versus the Mets. Pitchers are Elder versus Abbott. Tomorrow is TBD versus Espino. I'm 99% sure that's going to be Kyle Mueller pitching for Atlanta, and Odorizzi versus Gray. And then in the Mets series, it let them push Fried back for that one. So Fried versus Bassett, Wright versus DeGrom, Morton versus Scherzer. I don't trust Odorizzi starting. I don't trust Morton starting, but with Strider hurt, this is what we have. Cubbies, 3 versus the Phillies, Stroman versus Wheeler, Wisniewski versus Nola, Assad versus Suarez. These are actually really good pitching matchups. It should be a good series, guys. And then the Cubbies end with the Reds, TBD versus Ashcraft, Sampson versus Lodolo, Stroman versus Anderson. Phillies end 4 at the Nationals, Falter versus Corbin, Gibson versus Fetty in doubleheader game 1, Syndergaard versus Sanchez doubleheader game 2, and Wheeler versus Abbott. First of all, I'm not surprised to see Syndergaard's going to have to start again because of the doubleheader. But Jason, you have to be so happy to see the name Zach Wheeler popping up on that list again, because good God, you guys have needed him back out there.
Yeah, and he pitched well his first game back last week. He went 4 or 5 innings, gave up 3 hits. And he looked good. The fastball was there, and he felt no pain, which is key.
That's huge.
So here's hoping that he's healthy and ready to help take this team.
I was a little surprised they didn't bump his start back a day and have him start the Braves series against Max Fried.
Well, what they're doing is they're setting their rotation up for the final push here and for the playoffs, assuming they get in. Because the way it sets up is Wheeler will get a couple starts in, and Nola will actually start game 160. So that will actually line those two up to be your starters for the first 2 games of the wild card round.
Okay, that makes sense then. Yeah, 100% understandable. All right, guys, anything else you're watching? I know we mentioned all the other playoff races earlier. I will be fully focused on Braves Mets this week. That's the biggest series for me. I'll be honest, I'm probably not even going to be watching the other wild card teams right now because, this is a big week for us. How about you guys?
I'm keeping track of not only the Phillies series, but Padres and Brewers series just to see what they do. I will absolutely be scoreboard watching. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, consider this, Jason. If you move up, you're going to either be facing Atlanta or you're going to be facing the Mets. Is it almost better to not move up and stay at 6?
I was thinking about that, especially since the Phils have beaten the Cardinals in the season series. But honestly, no matter what, if they make it, I'm not expecting a long run. I would fully be expecting them to lose that first series, being a big road series to start.
Yeah.
So I don't think it makes too much of a difference, especially if it's against the Braves. If it's the Mets, I would absolutely prefer that they stay in the 6th spot. I just, with how the Mets have completely destroyed them this year, I would be quite all right if they don't have to face the Mets.
Yeah, and they did that without DeGrom for the most part, which is utterly insane. I've never seen a team beat up that much on another division team that was above 500 like that. That was insane. I was just curious on your thoughts on that, because that actually, the Phillies actually, that does kind of play. I mean, you don't want to lose games, but at the same time, it's not the end of the world to maybe lose games and stay down at 6, and because you're not going to have home field anyway, no matter what. You can't catch the number 1 wild card.
They just need to push to just make sure that they're in first.
Yeah.
If you see them clinch before the end of the season, you may see them lose a couple games just to kind of stay in that 6th spot, but they're not. I would at least hope so, but they're not going to be taking games for at advantage right now. So
yeah,
they're not going to take them for granted.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Joe, what about you? What are you keeping an eye on?
I mean, I'm going to watch the series between us, Jason. I'm going to pay attention to that. But other than that, does Judge get there here in the next day or two? I'm not honestly. I'm kind of like George and Seinfeld. I've shifted into football and college basketball mode. So, instead of soup mode here, but I will pay attention enough to know what's going on baseball wise. But it's kind of like, all right, we got to 63. I don't have to worry about 100 losses, and I think. Jason, if I were you, I'd probably want to play the Braves over the Cardinals, but assuming the Mets stay in that spot. But something about St. Louis, man. There's magic out there in the playoffs.
There's voodoo. It's not magic.
St. Louis and the playoffs are always a dangerous time.
Yeah, voodoo, not magic. It's all black magic voodoo, baby. Ronnie, let's be realistic. I think just about everybody hates the Mets. Although you guys definitely have a stronger claim to that than most teams do over most years. Like I said, that the ass kicking the Mets have put on the Phillies this year, it's unprecedented for one team against another 500 plus team. Just insane. Why
don't we keep talking about it, Andrew?
I fully do not expect that to happen next year. Although it can't, because we have less division games next year, which I'm mixed bag on that too. But anyway, we're not talking about that tonight. All right, guys, you can find all the audio recordings on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Amazon Music, and Spreaker. You can see us live on our YouTube channel, on Facebook Live, and on Twitter. You can find the merchandise at redbubble.com/people/DDAB-podcast. Follow us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer. On the Twitter page at DDAB_podcast. All three of us are on Twitter. I'm at PyroLord314. Jason's at JRicker300. And Joe is at JoltonJoe35. We are presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC, and we are sponsored by the phenomenal Whiskey and Blade Barbershop in Lidditz. Johnny, you did a hell of a job today, man. I can't wait to see you again in probably 3-4 weeks. Guys, may your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. Have a great night, and it's going to be one hell of a playoff chase.